so that nobody would see what the ISIS was doing. Because ISIS is being both used, but now is threatening Turkey. Here is what you would get if you try to get to those videos in Turkey. So they are all being blocked. When ISIS, I don't know, points are raided, you can see most of their weapons are from Turkey. Turkey is a NATO member. Turkey is a NATO member. It cannot even go to the bathroom without asking the United States. And these are all manufactured in Turkey under the knowledge of NATO and is being transported to Syria to be given to ISIS militants. Now, when Turkey did not really respond quickly enough for the first warning of these soldiers being burned, then there were others, of course. This is a group of Kurdish and Turkish youth who got together in Suruç to bring toys to the Kurdish children who had lost their parents. And this picture was taken only minutes from when they were bombed. And this is what happened. Many, many lives lost. And right before the attack, all the cameras that that were on the city center and around this were all cut down, and nobody saw who it was, but it was ISIS for sure. Then another attack came a couple of months later. This was now in the capital of Ankara, right by the train station, when the HDP, Kurdish Progressive, very leftist party, was having its meeting. A suicide bomber came in and detonated it. So the warnings were, you cannot ignore these warnings. And here is the guy you see on the right, Yunus Durmaz, is the guy who was responsible of the last bombing, and he was going to be captured. He blew up himself, but this is his another picture when they are ready to assassinate another guy in Syria. Now, Turkey today still claims that it is fighting ISIS. It's very interesting. Just to give an example, a wanted ISIS militant was caught in Turkey trying to cross the border, and the next day Germany wanted to capture him, after he was arrested by Turkey, because he's like one of the top wanted terrorists in the world. And the reply that the Turkey gave him is that we couldn't find anything, so we let him go. This is the top wanted terrorist in Europe.
Durmaz.
Huh?
Yunus Durmaz.
No, not this guy, another guy. Another guy. Yes, Yunus Durmaz is the guy that bombed the Ankara train station. So, finally, Turkey has to again go into Syria. But I'm going to argue here that this is not something as we think it is, that United States just pulled and Turkey went in and all the liberals in the world stood up and said, oh, how could you do this to the Kurds and everything. Imperialism doesn't care if it's the Kurds or the Turks or the Eskimos or whoever it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So we're going to try to see what is going on. The attacks that we are hearing against Trump, that the army should not be pulled out and the Kurds were left alone, it is only to attack Trump himself. And one of the reasons that Trump is doing this is that I really don't think he understands the complexity and the program of imperialism. He has made promises to his base that he's going to pull the soldiers, so he's putting up a show of moving soldiers from one end to the other and so on and so forth. But that irks the deep state imperialists who have not seen a war they never liked, and they want more war, and they want him to proceed with the war. And these are all the complaints that we are hearing today about leaving the Kurds alone. But Kurds were stabbed in the back? Yes, they were. Of course they were. So is there anybody who's surprised? This was told to Kurds many, many years ago, that if you go to bed with the imperialists, this is what will happen. Now, we can have, and we should have a discussion, what other ways were there for the Kurds? This is the same thing. Today we are having arguments about the Armenian genocide. Turks are saying, very racist, very nationalistic. They are saying Armenians deserved it. Why? Oh, because they were working together with the imperialists who were going to come in and invade our country. Was it true? Well, yes, United States, they had asked help to United States, and United States was actually considering sending troops to protect the Armenians, because they had just come out of a genocide. And more genocide was being expected. So United States says, you know, like, we can go in there, yes, we could, to protect the Armenians. So Kurds are in the same position now. Turkey forever has hated the existence of Kurds. Armenian genocide, I'm coming back to that. The reason for the Armenian genocide was that with the new Turkey, there was not going to be any non-Muslim in the country. Non-Muslims were the target. And Armenians, Jews, Greeks were non-Muslims. And with the genocide, the first Armenian genocide, then the Greek genocide, and in 1955 finishing it all up with the Jews being completely thrown out of Turkey, Turkey kind of achieved that result. But nationalism doesn't stop there. Okay? So now you got the non-Muslim, but a new identity, 1923, new Turkey, from being a Muslim as your identity, became more of a racial line. Being a Turk became the identity. You could work with Kurds while exterminating the Armenians. Why? Because both of you are Muslims. And the Armenians are non-Muslims. You can kill them together. But now you are a Turk. And the Kurds are not Turk. So the second target became the Kurds. But the Kurds proved themselves to be more resilient. 25% of the population are Kurds. And more than 20 uprisings in Turkey happened by the Kurds. Okay? So the hatred against the Kurds is very well known. And Turkey today says, oh, I'm not attacking Kurds. We have nothing, no problem with the Kurds. It's their organization, PKK and the PYD. That's what we are attacking. That's complete lie. And I'll prove to you why. Just last March, in Japan, one Japanese university offered an elective course in Kurdish, learning Kurdish. Turkey is officially now, after Japan, trying to stop that course from being given, just because it's Kurdish. This is the extent of racist hatred towards the Kurds. And now, you know, when Turkey attacks Syria, let's remember that Turkey has since 1978 and since 1984 have had problems with the Kurdish guerrilla movement, which has, you know, survived up to now, and now working together with the Kurds in Syria. So there is that dimension as well. This movement with you know, the United States pulling out and the Turkey moving in is not a loss for United States. It is just a change, because when these problems started in Syria, Assad kind of pulled out from northern Syria, the border of Turkey, and left it to the Kurds. But United States needed boots on the ground. that will do the work for them, especially what? Especially trying to secure the oil fields. And because of this geographical position that the Kurds are in there, and Assad kind of pulling out from there, it was natural that the Kurds there would control the land. And it went well with the United States, because they could help the Kurds that would be fighting ISIS, but Kurds were also against the Syrian government. Why? The same fight that is happening in Turkey is being waged in Syria, but not at the same level. Turkey is vicious, but the Kurds in Syria enjoy, you know, speaking their language, which is banned in Turkey. Just yesterday's news is that somebody, a Kurdish guy who died, and his headstone on his grave was in Kurdish. The government had to go in and destroy the headstone on the grave. The Kurds in the east, through free and open elections, are winning local governments. And the minute they win, the government, Turkish government, goes in and says, hey, we are putting a stewardship here, and they pull out they jail the elected government officials of Kurds and put a Turkish, you know, general governor there. And the first thing that these appointed governors do is take down the Kurdish signs. Anybody who speaks here, many people have been lynched in Turkey because they were speaking on their cell phone in Kurdish. Okay? So, Kurds are now controlling that area. Good. United States doesn't have its boots there, but Kurds are doing it. Well, Turkey doesn't like this. Let's remember, Turkey is a NATO country. It has huge army. Second biggest army in NATO is Turkish. Turkey starts whimpering and crying and carrying on and going to the Russians and coming back and all of those things happening. So Trump says, yeah, so what the hell? Okay, fine. You protected northern Syria for me instead of the Kurds. Much better. This is the whole change we are seeing. The whole change. We've kind of... Turkey has a long dream of building the Ottoman Empire again. And this starts with Syria. Let's remember that Syria has been a colony of the Ottomans for more than 400 years. Turkey is responsible for many of the things that's happening in Syria, you know. And after 400 years, Syrians defeated in a humiliating, embarrassing way the Turkish army, and Turkey never forgave them. Not only Syrians, but the Arabs, because Turks believe that all the other Arabs and the Greeks and everyone from the Ottoman Empire should be Turkey's subjects. And not only they defeated the Turkish army, they defeated the guy who founded Turkey. Mustafa Kemal was the commander of the army when the Syrians and the British beat him in Aleppo. So, let's go down.
You have 10 minutes.
Okay. Interesting events happening in Syria. The United States is actually negotiating with Russia at every point there. They share the airspace. Whenever somebody's going to fly the planes, they let each other know. They are, I don't know, they coordinate at each level. And just to show that the war there, that the United States has kind of pulled back. I don't know if people saw those photographs of United States troops leaving. It was very interesting. I needed to find that photograph, couldn't, but just imagine that photograph. A road, on the one side, a convoy of United States armed forces leaving, and on the other side of the road, the Syrian armed forces are moving in. You know, Syrian flag there, United States flag there, and they try not to look at each other's eye, and then they just pass it. So this is what we are seeing in Syria. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that the conflict there, it has taken, kind of United States is accepting that the Russians have the upper hand, and you know, it's not time for Assad to go yet. Instead, what they will do is with assaults, with ISIS here, this and that there, it is just biting off piece by piece, to weaken them up. We have talked about this, and yeah. So they have this agreement. Okay, would be the control. We have talked about this. The Turks moving in, and oh, very interesting. Turkey keeps on saying to the world that it's going to go in, it's going to establish a secure zone, and then it will leave. It is not going to happen, guys. Turkey already are changing in Syria the names of the streets, the names of the plazas to Turkish names. They have started distributing textbooks that were written in favor of Turkey. They've opened a university. They are appointing governors to little towns. And those little towns are being connected in administration hierarchy to Turkish towns. Okay, so let's be clear on that one. So again, Trump says we are, you know, we've kept the oil, and you know about that. The recent thing, I think here everybody does know about it. Says it's not a big deal as long as we have the oil. But one thing that is being laid on Kurds, which is a big problem, I believe, is that in order to exist, Kurds are going to be tasked to control and patrol the oil fields for United States. Yes, this is being tasked for their existence. And that's the you know, friction that's going to happen between Syria. Look, the integrity of, you know, the sovereignty of Syria belongs to the Syrian people. That also includes the Kurds there, yes. But being used or being an, you know, like an accessory to imperialism is not going to help the Kurds. And unfortunately, Kurds are being pushed into this position today. We know that, you know, Assad is not an angel, yes. But attack on a country by an imperialist country, United States, and being divided up. I don't know if people here know the Greater Middle East Project. There's a lot of discussion whether it exists or not, but a lot of documents have come out to it. As a part of the Greater Middle East Project, Iraq is being divided, Syria is being divided, and Turkey dreams that nobody will touch it. But part of this comes into, that's the contradiction that Turkey has today. Turkey believes that it's going to be part of the force that's going to divide Syria, but Turkey doesn't realize that when Syria is divided, right next to its borders will come up a Kurdish state, and Turkey will not allow that. So here is the solution that Turkey is doing, an ethnic cleansing. Kurds will again pay the price. They will pay the price again, whether they, you know, cooperate or not. But the plan today Turkey has is this. Turkey has 3.6 million refugees from Syria. Turkey gets paid quite handsomely by Europe to take care of those refugees. Actually, that's what's keeping up Turkish economy floating today. And it was such an agreement that Turkey used to get that money and distribute it to the refugees. Well, you can see what a big problem that created for the refugees, because Turkey likes to hand this hand in the jar. So Europe and Turkey had to negotiate along. Now that money is being given directly to the refugees, but that money is floating Turkey around. Now Turkey's plan is that ethnic cleanse northern Syria from Kurds, and then put the Arabs, the refugees there, and get grants and money from Europe to build homes to the refugees, and that will revitalize the collapsed construction sector of Turkey. That is the plan. But going back to, again, maybe we can come up to the solutions. Yes. When we look at this, we see that the problem we should be discussing is the national question. Do the Kurds have the right to their future, to their national country? Yes and no. Why? Because we look at these questions not from Kurdish, Turkish, Syrian, Arabic perspective. We as leftists, Marxists, look at this from the perspective of what does this mean for the left, for the socialists, for the future of socialism? And if a Kurdistan is helping this cause, yes. But if it is not, if there is a bigger, picture to be looked at, then we go with that route. But today, Syria is under attack. Huge attack from imperialists. And so the sovereignty of that country needs to be defended from Turkey, from United States. So what is the solution then? I mean, it's an open thing. It's not an easy question. But what seems to emerge is that if the people of the region, Turks, Kurds, Yazidis, the Arabs, Turkomans, would be coming up to create some communities, some resistance against the Turkish state, against the Syrian state, yes. But that force has to come up. But in the meantime, we know that if Syria disintegrates, the possibility of this solution is going to be impossible. Because imperialism is openly attacking. Maybe we can discuss this in the solutions. Many people have many ideas on that. Yeah.